The night was quiet, but not silent. Out on the open interstate, silence never truly existed. There was always a hum, a vibration, a whisper of the world in motion. My 18-wheeler roared against the emptiness, its headlights slicing through, the black curtain of night like two determined swords. The dashboard glowed a faint amber, illuminating the weary lines across my face. My name is John Miller, and for 25 years I've been a truck driver. The road has been my closest companion, the engine my steady heartbeat, and the endless horizon my silent witness. Some men say home is where the heart is. For me, home has always been a shifting thing, a diner counter, a motel room, or the driver's seat of this big rig I call the Iron Angel. That night was no ordinary night. It was the kind of night where memories crawl out of the corners of your mind, pulling at you, whispering things you'd rather not remember. My logbook was heavy with miles, my body with fatigue, but there was something heavier inside me, an ache, an emptiness that no coffee cup or radio station could fill. The CB crackled once or twice with passing chatter, but I left it turned low. Country songs played faintly on the stereo, the kind of songs where every lyric feels like it's aimed straight at you. The road stretched ahead in an endless ribbon of gray, its white lines flickering like a heartbeat under the tires. I thought of my little girl, though she wasn't so little anymore. Emily. She was 16 now, tall and strong-willed, with a smile that could light up the darkest mile. I still remember the first time she waved goodbye to me from the porch, holding her teddy bear, too young to understand why Daddy had to leave so often. That memory lived in me, as bright as the morning sun over an open plain. But time had a way of turning children into strangers. I missed birthdays. I missed her first school play. I missed late-night talks when she was old enough to ask big questions about life. Every mile I drove brought me closer to a paycheck, but farther away from her childhood. And that weighed on me heavier than any load I ever hauled. The hum of the tires became a lullaby of regret. Each passing town was another reminder of the life I might have lived if I'd chosen differently. But trucking wasn't just my job. It was my survival. Bills had to be paid, food had to be on the table, and sacrifices had to be made. Still, that night felt different. The moon hung low and orange, like a lantern swinging over the edge of the earth. The air carried a chill, sharp enough to cut through the cracked window. I gripped the wheel tighter, the leather warm from years of wear. The Iron Angel rattled as she climbed a long hill, her diesel heart pumping with stubborn determination. And in that moment, when the road seemed endless and my own spirit felt thin, my phone buzzed on the dashboard. At first, I thought it was just another spam call. Another reminder that the world never left you alone. But then I saw the name glowing across the screen. Emily, my daughter. My heart stopped, then pounded hard enough to shake the fatigue from my bones. She rarely called me while I was on the road. Texts, sure. A quick, "Hey Dad," now and then. But a phone call? That was rare. I reached for the phone with one hand, keeping the other steady on the wheel. I pressed the button, and her voice, sweet yet strong, poured into the cab. "Hi, Dad," she said softly, almost as if she wasn't sure I'd answer. In that moment, the hum of the engine, the music, the road, they all faded. It was just her voice and the silence of the night. My chest tightened. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear her, How much my soul longed for it. "Hey, baby girl," I answered, my voice rough, carrying the gravel of too many nights on the highway. "You okay?" There was a pause so heavy it felt like the truck itself had slowed down. Then she whispered, I just wanted to talk. I couldn't sleep." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything I'd missed. It was in that second I knew. This phone call wasn't just a passing moment. It was the lifeline I didn't even know I needed. I sat straighter, cleared my throat, and suddenly the road didn't feel so lonely anymore. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just a trucker hauling freight across America. I was a father, and my daughter had reached out, not for money, not for favors, but simply for me. And that kept me driving. The sound of Emily's voice lingered in my ears long after the words themselves had faded. It was as if the miles themselves were listening, as if the asphalt beneath my wheels carried her message forward with every rotation of the tires. I cleared my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. "Couldn't sleep, huh? What's on your mind?" She hesitated, then laughed softly, a sound so delicate it felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Nothing big, Dad. Just life, I guess. School, friends, you know." But I knew better. When someone calls in the middle of the night, it's never just about nothing. As she spoke, I found myself staring at the stars scattered across the black canvas above me. They felt like distant headlights, like other travelers moving along a celestial highway. I'd always thought of my truck as a vessel, carrying me through space and time. Tonight, though, I realized Emily was my true compass. No GPS, no map, no road sign could guide me the way her voice did in that moment. I remembered the early years when I first took this job to put food on the table. Emily was barely 2, still learning how to speak. I told myself I'd work hard, for a few years, save up, and then settle down with more time at home. But a few years turned into a decade, and a decade into 2. The road had become more than a job. It had become a habit, a rhythm I couldn't shake. Every mile marker was a reminder of the things I'd missed. Her first steps, her first words, her first day of school. Other fathers were in the front row, of school plays, snapping pictures with shaky hands and teary eyes. I was hundreds of miles away, hunched over a steering wheel, listening to static on a CB radio. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was a man who could drive across an entire country, but I couldn't find my way back to my own daughter's everyday life. Yet, in her voice that night, I didn't hear resentment. I didn't hear the anger I'd always feared would one day come. Instead, I heard curiosity, a need, a bridge being built between us. "Dad, do you ever get tired of it? You know, driving all the time?" Her question hit me like a gust of wind pushing against the trailer. I tightened my grip on the wheel. "Tired?" I repeated, searching for the right words. "Yeah, baby girl, I get tired. Not just the kind of tired you fix with sleep. The kind that sits in your bones. But the road's been my way of taking care of us. I figured if I kept driving, kept working, you'd always have what you needed." There was silence on the other end. Then her voice, softer now. "I don't need much, Dad. Just you." Those words, they cut through me like nothing else ever could. I blinked hard, the glow of the dashboard blurring as tears tried to surface. The highway stretched on, its white lines flickering like the seconds of a clock, reminding me how much time had already slipped away. Each town I passed, empty diners, neon signs buzzing in the night, felt like ghosts of choices I'd made. Yet, with every word Emily spoke, the road took on a different meaning. It wasn't just an endless stretch of asphalt anymore. It was a story, a reflection of my own life. The interstate was my diary. Every crack in the pavement was a wrinkle in my face. Every curve was a decision made. Every exit I passed was an opportunity missed. And the long flat stretches, those were the years I'd driven in silence, too focused on the destination to notice the journey. But my daughter's voice reminded me, maybe it wasn't too late. I thought of the sky above me, filled with stars. Some were bright, some faint, some already dead, though their light still reached my eyes. Parenting felt the same. I'd made mistakes. I'd missed moments. But maybe, just maybe, the light of my love was still reaching her, even across all the distance, even after all these years. "Emily?" I said finally, my voice breaking but steady with conviction. "I know I've been gone more than I've been home, and I can't change the past. But if you'll let me, I want to be here for you now, in every way I can." She didn't answer right away. I heard a sniffle, a shaky breath, and then she whispered, "That's all I ever wanted, Dad." The words filled the cab like sunlight pouring through a dirty window, brightening even the darkest corners of my soul. I smiled for the first time that night, a real smile, the kind that comes from the heart. And as the miles rolled on, I realized something. The road was no longer just about freight, paychecks, or survival. The road had become my bridge back to my daughter. The iron angel hummed beneath me, carrying us forward. Not just me, not just the cargo, but the fragile thread of a bond being stitched back together, mile by mile, word by word. And though the night was long, I didn't feel tired anymore, because Emily's voice was my fuel. The night deepened as I pushed further down the interstate, the sound of Emily's voice still echoing in my chest. Every word she had spoken carried a warmth that made the miles softer, almost bearable. But life has a way of testing you just when you think you've found a moment of peace. I was cruising along a long stretch of Highway 70, nothing but open plains on either side. The road was straight as a ruler, endless and lonely. Suddenly, the wind shifted, a hard gust rattling against the trailer, and I noticed dark clouds rolling over the horizon. The radio crackled alive with a warning. Severe storm warning in effect. Drivers on Interstate 70 should use extreme caution, I muttered under my breath. Storms were part of the job, sure, but this one looked mean. Thick clouds swallowing the stars, lightning carving across the sky like silver knives. Emily was still on the line. "Dad, are you okay? I hear something, like thunder." I tried to sound calm. "Just a little storm, sweetheart. Nothing I can't handle." But inside, I wasn't so sure. The rain started as a drizzle, tapping gently on the windshield, then quickly escalated into a downpour so heavy it felt like the heavens were unloading the entire ocean. My wipers beat back and forth like frantic arms, struggling to keep the windshield clear. The tires hissed against the slick pavement, and every gust of wind pushed my rig like it was nothing more than a toy. The Iron Angel groaned as I downshifted, gripping the wheel with both hands. My heart raced, not just from the storm, but from the weight of my daughter's voice still on the other end of the line. "Dad, maybe you should pull over," Emily said, worry dripping from every syllable. I thought about it. The safe thing would have been to pull into the nearest rest stop, park under the glowing safety of truck stoplights, and wait out the storm. But there was a delivery deadline waiting at sunrise. And more than that, this storm felt like more than weather. It felt like a test. How many times had I chosen the road over my daughter? How many times had I told myself I'll make it up to her later? If I stopped now, I wouldn't just be delaying a load. I'd be slipping back into that old pattern of postponing what mattered most. "No, baby," I said softly, steadying my voice. "I'm gonna keep driving." Sometimes in life, the only way through the storm is to face it head on. The rig rattled as thunder boomed overhead, rolling like cannon fire across the plains. Lightning lit up the sky, and for an instant I saw the wet road gleaming ahead like a silver snake twisting through the darkness. Emily stayed quiet for a moment. I could tell she was holding her breath, listening to every sound. Finally she whispered, "Then promise me you'll be careful." That promise meant more than she realized. The rain thickened, sheets of water slapping against the truck, and my visibility dropped to almost nothing. I slowed down, every nerve alive, every muscle tense. My knuckles were white against the wheel, my breath shallow. But inside my chest, there was something else, something stronger than fear. It was Emily's voice, reminding me I wasn't alone anymore. Yet the storm wasn't the only thing testing me. Somewhere in the blur of rain and thunder, my phone buzzed again. A second call was coming in. I glanced down quickly. It was the dispatcher. He never called this late unless it was important. For a split second, I froze. Answering him would mean putting Emily on hold. And I couldn't bear the thought of her, feeling ignored, not after all the times I hadn't been there before. "Dad?" Emily's voice wavered. She must have sensed my hesitation. I gritted my teeth, eyes locked on the storm ahead. "It can wait. Right now, I'm here with you." Those words weren't just for her. They were for me, too. A declaration. A decision. Still, the weight of that missed call pressed heavy on me. What if it was urgent? What if the company needed me to reroute? My livelihood depended on these hauls. Missing too many calls, too many deadlines, could cost me the very job that kept food on the table. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside me. This tug of war, between duty to the job and duty to my daughter. Lightning flashed again, and in that brief burst of light, I saw something ahead. Red lights. A line of brake lights glowing through the curtain of rain. "Easy now," I muttered, easing off the accelerator and pressing the brakes gently. The truck slowed, the trailer swaying slightly on the slick pavement. Traffic had come to a crawl. A few cars had pulled to the shoulder, their hazard lights blinking like tiny stars. A fellow trucker up ahead had stopped completely, his rig angled as if the storm had forced him off course. Emily's voice broke through the chaos. "Dad, are you okay? What's happening?" I swallowed hard, keeping my tone steady. "Just some traffic. We'll get through it." But inside, I knew the truth. This wasn't just about getting through a storm. This was about proving to myself, and to her, that I could weather anything as long as she was with me, even if only by phone. The storm raged on, the road slick and unforgiving, but somewhere between the thunderclaps and the wailing wind, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't just driving cargo. I was driving with a purpose. I was driving for her, and no storm, outside or inside, was going to take that away. The storm didn't let up. It grew angrier. Rain hammered the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists, and the wipers fought a losing battle. Every gust of wind shoved at the trailer, trying to knock me off balance. My rig felt less like a machine and more like a living beast straining against the storm, growling with every mile. My daughter's voice was still in my ear, trembling yet steady. "Dad, maybe you should pull over now. Please." I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But deep inside, something kept pushing me forward. Not recklessness, not stubborn pride. Something bigger. This wasn't just about finishing a haul. It was about finishing a promise. For once in my life, I wanted to show Emily that I could be steady, that I could keep going, not just for the job, but for her. The red brake lights ahead brightened, warning of slowing traffic. I tapped the brakes, gently, but on the wet road, the trailer swayed like a pendulum. My heart jumped into my throat. The CB radio crackled alive with other truckers shouting warnings. "Watch the slick stretch at mile marker 212. Rig jackknifed." On the eastbound. "Slow it down, drivers." Jackknifed. The word alone made my hands clamp tighter around the wheel. That was every trucker's nightmare. The trailer swinging around, the whole rig folding like a pocket knife. One wrong move, one panic break, and the Iron Angel could become a monster I couldn't control. Emily's voice cut through my racing thoughts. "Dad, don't leave me." Those 4 words shattered me. She wasn't just talking about the storm. She was talking about all the times I'd been gone. The nights she cried when I missed Christmas. The days she sat in the bleachers, looking for me, only to see an empty seat. "Baby girl," I whispered, my throat tight. "I'm not going anywhere." Thunder roared above me, shaking the heavens. But I pushed on, my eyes fixed on the faint glow of a truck stop sign through the downpour. The storm was still raging, but hope flickered in that neon glow like a lighthouse through the fog. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to make it there. Just a few more miles. Just a little further. The tires hydroplaned briefly, the steering wheel jerking in my hands. The whole rig swayed. My heart nearly stopped. For a terrifying moment, I thought I'd lose control. But then, I heard her voice. Again. Clear, firm, almost commanding. "Dad, you've got this." And somehow, that was enough. My hands steadied, my breathing slowed, my mind cleared. I guided the Iron Angel carefully, each motion deliberate, each decision made with the weight of a father's love. The storm didn't weaken, but my fear did. I wasn't fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I eased the rig into the glow of the truck stop. Rows of big rigs were already parked there, their hazard lights flashing like a chorus of warning beacons. I pulled into a slot, braked gently, and let the engine settle into a deep, steady purr. For the first time in hours, I let out a long breath. My hands trembled on the wheel, my shirt clung to my back with sweat. But I was safe. "Emily," I said softly. "I made it." On the other end, I heard a small sob of relief. "Thank God. I was so scared, Dad. I leaned back in the seat, closing my eyes. So was I. But you know something? You kept me driving. If it weren't for your call, I don't know if I'd have had the strength tonight. There was silence, then her quiet reply. And if it weren't for you, Dad, I don't know if I'd have had the courage to call. Her words hit me harder than any storm ever could. I realized then that tonight wasn't about freight deadlines or weather alerts. It was about a bridge being built between a father and a daughter, one fragile phone call at a time. I opened my eyes and stared out at the storm still raging outside, but inside the cab, I felt peace. That night in the middle of the fiercest storm I'd faced on the road, I found something stronger than the storm itself. I found my way back to my daughter. And in that moment, I knew this was the turning point. Their road would never be the same again. The storm still raged outside, wind and rain pounding the roof of the cab like an uninvited drummer. But inside my truck it was quiet, peaceful, in a way I hadn't felt in years. The Iron Angel purred and idle, steady as a heartbeat, the glow of the dashboard light soft against the night. And in my ear, on that little phone speaker, was the only sound that truly mattered. My daughter breathing on the other end of the line. "Emily," I whispered, leaning back in my seat. "Thank you for calling me tonight." She laughed softly, a laugh still wet with tears. "Why? I just needed to hear your voice." "No," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "You gave me something I didn't even know I'd lost. You reminded me why I keep going. Not for the paycheck, not for the miles, but for you." There was silence, but not the heavy silence of guilt or distance. This was the kind of silence where words weren't necessary, where hearts spoke in their own language. I looked out at the storm, lightning flashing across the horizon, and it hit me. Storms always pass. They may rage and roar, but sooner or later the skies clear. Maybe that was the lesson I needed. My daughter and I had weathered our own storm for years, me on the road, her at home, miles and time between us. But here we were, still connected, still able to find each other. "Dad," Emily said suddenly, "when will you be home? Home." That word cut deep. Home wasn't just a house in Kansas. It wasn't a chair at the dinner table. For me, home had always been wherever my truck was parked. But for her, home was me. And that realization filled me with a mix of pride and sorrow. "In a couple days," I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. "And when I get there, we're going to do something together. Just you and me. No phone calls, no miles between us." Her voice brightened instantly. "Promise, promise," I said, and this time I meant it with every fiber of my being. The road had taken much from me. Birthdays, first dances, quiet nights by the fire. But maybe it had also given me something. Perspective. The miles, the solitude, the endless horizon had taught me how precious moments really were. I thought of all the fathers out there, gripping their own steering wheels, chasing paychecks, while their children grew up faster than the mile markers passing by. I thought of every driver staring out at the endless blacktop, wondering if their sacrifices were worth it. And I realized something. The road teaches us, but it also tests us. It asks, "What are you driving for?" For me, I finally knew the answer. I wasn't driving for the company logo stamped on the freight. I wasn't driving for the paycheck. I was driving for my daughter's voice, for her trust, for the bond we still had, fragile but alive. I leaned forward, resting my forehead against the cool glass of the window. The rain had softened now, tapping instead of hammering. The storm was moving on. "Emily," I said softly, "I want you to know something. No matter where I am, no matter how many miles stretch between us, you're the reason I keep driving. Every mile, every night, every sunrise, it's all for you." Her reply was simple, but it carried more weight than any words I'd ever heard. "I know, Dad, and that's enough." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink into me, deeper than the rumble of the engine, deeper than the sound of the rain. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. And that night, parked in a truck stop with a storm passing overhead, I learned a truth I'd carry for the rest of my days. Sometimes, the smallest call can save the biggest heart. Life is full of storms. They come in many forms: weather, distance, mistakes, regret. But no storm lasts forever. What carries us through isn't the road beneath our tires, but the voices of the people we love. For me, it was my daughter's call that kept me driving. And for anyone listening tonight, whatever storm you're facing, whatever miles stretch between you and the ones you love, remember, sometimes all it takes is one voice, one connection, one reminder that you're not alone. I shifted in my seat, staring out at the clearing horizon. Dawn wasn't far away, and with it, another long haul. But it didn't matter, because this time, I wasn't just hauling freight. I was hauling hope, love, and a promise to a daughter who believed in me. And maybe that's the real story of every trucker out here. Behind every rig, behind every mile, there's a family, a dream, a reason to keep going. So if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you love, do me a favor. Take a moment to call them. Tell them what they mean to you. Don't wait. Don't let the miles turn into regrets. And before you go, if you felt something in this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more Trucker Tales from the Open Road. Because out here, the road is long. The nights are lonely, but the stories keep us driving.